And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Well, welcome to the summary of what can only be regarded as one of the most extraordinary days of Test cricket. I feel privileged to have been there, and somebody who witnessed it along with me was Ian Forth, who's in Melbourne with us. Welcome, Ian.
I feel very welcomed, and I feel elated that Test cricket can still serve up days like today.
Indeed, indeed. Well, to kick off, I'll invite you, if you can manage it, to give us a brief summary of what happened today.
Well, England resumed on 48 for 1, chasing an overall target of 256. So with just 208 runs to get, which in the history of Test cricket has proved difficult. But I think the general consensus was they were probably marginal favourites going into the last day on a pretty flat wicket. The night watchman, Ollie Robinson, departed fairly rapidly, not for the first time during the day, hoiking it way into the air. He went to, hang on, let me just get this up, to Southey, 53 for 2 at that stage. And then Ben Duckett, who looked good the night before, rapidly followed. He was out, caught in the slips, but caught it by the wicketkeeper Blundell for Henry for 33. That was 59 for 3. Ollie Pope came in and looked very skittish. Did not look under control at all. And it was no surprise when he steered one into Slip's hands. So he was caught late and bowled Wagner for 14. And then very next ball, I think it was, Joe Root called for a suicidal single and completely shot his fellow batsman, Harry Brook, the hero of the first innings, in the foot. And he was run out for I believe it's sometimes called a diamond duck, without even facing. So that was 80 for 5, and Kiwis were strong favourites at this stage. Then Stokes and Root got together, and Stokes injured himself during the course of a long stand, but they got the score over 200. It was 201 for 6 when the wheels slightly came off at this stage. Ben Stokes hoiked it way up into the air, but possibly hampered by his knee. That was 201 for 6. And then just one run later, Joe Root somewhat unaccountably stepped away. And with his score on 95 and with the finishing line beginning to get into sight, he managed to find the man at mid-wicket. 202 for 7. Stuart Broad then flailed away for just 11 runs. He inevitably holed out, 215 for 8. And with still, 43 runs to get, the Kiwis suddenly became favourite again. At this stage, the two sensible men, Folkes and Leach, managed to get the score down to, I think it was 10 runs, maybe even less than that. Was it 7? So sorry, all the excitement. We're slightly losing track here. Yes, was it 7?
7.
Maybe it was 7.
Yeah.
7 runs. 7 runs with 2 wickets in hand. When Ben Folkes went for one slightly overambitious shot too many, holed out to Tim Wagner off the bowling of Southey. Enter the fray, the legendary Jimmy Anderson, together with Jack Leach. Could they get them over the line? 1 or 2 suspicious wide calls. 1 was called, 2 weren't. Could it have been so different? We'll discuss that, no doubt. Jimmy hit 1-4, and the score was brought to within 2 runs when Jimmy just got the faintest of nicks down the leg side, caught Blundell, bowled Wagner. New Zealand got home. Now, in all the excitement, was it by 1 run or by 2, Messi?
By 1 run, yes.
By 1 run.
For only the second time in Test history.
Yes, with a target of 258, England fell 2 runs short. New Zealand won by 1 run. Had that wide been called, and we can talk about it, as I say, in the last over, it looked fairly clearly a wide. It would almost certainly have been a tie, and that would have been only the 3rd tie, I think, in Test match history. As it was, New Zealand following on and winning, that was only the 4th time in Test match history that had been achieved. Some day, some match, some series.
Indeed. Thank you for that, Forthy. And yes, it was a little longer, but it bore explanation of each wicket, I think, today, because it was so gripping and so if I can say so, Bazball, actually, in so many ways. um, uh, we will go back to perhaps Joe Root was interesting. Joe Root in the first innings made a sublime century, and his 100 in the first innings was, what did he get? 153 off 224 balls at a strike rate of 68.3, and that increased quite a lot towards the end. So generally speaking, batting at around 60. This innings, he made 95 off 113 balls, so a strike rate of 84, and actually slowed down a bit towards the end, I think. But he was clearly taking a much more aggressive approach generally in his innings, which, well, if you get 95, you've got to say that's fairly successful. It must be said that there were those who were very cross with him for hooking and getting out on 95. What's your view of his innings?
Well, I think my view is he is allowed some latitude. He did play. I had that shot race to the fence. We'd have all been applauding and said, "Well done," and you're within the stroke of your century. The man scored 250 runs during the match and got England to as close as they could. And he didn't do it in a harem-scarum fashion. I'm just going to say, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I don't really think that really applies to Joe Root. He did make a misjudgment. He took one step away. Who knows why that might be? No man is perfect. So I'm very inclined to give him the benefit, Joe Root, after his colossal contribution to what was, after all, a great test match.
Indeed. It's probably worth adding that Kane Williamson was nominated as man of the match, and Harry Brook as player of the series. Both of them well deserved, I think. Excuse me. So Harry Brook's run out proved to be, well, was almost certainly decisive. So Root hit it into the gully. Slightly wide of the gully, but it didn't go past the gully, and just took off for a run. And Brook at the non-striker's end had towards the batting stumps, but was way short of his ground. I don't know what was going through Root's head when he took off on that run, but it was a sacrifice.
I think he simply misread it.
Yeah.
I think he simply misread it. I think he thought it's gone wide of the man at slip, and he hadn't realised that the man was coming round behind him, who I think was Bracewell, and was able to easily cut it off. He just totally misread the situation. Occasionally it happens even to the best players. I feel I'm being very magnanimous towards Joe Root, but I don't care. But what he had effectively done at that stage is run out the other brilliant batsman in England's lineup without even facing a ball. So that was, to say the very least, unfortunate.
Yeah. And it did look for a long time when Root and Stokes put on 121 runs between them for the sixth wicket. It looked like it was pretty much all over at that stage. Stokes was suffering quite badly from his knee. About, 20 minutes into his innings, he hit the ball and suddenly just went down on his knee and was clearly in a lot of pain. And at that stage, finding it difficult to run. Came back out after tea looking less troubled by it, but even so, it was clearly restricting him. And it really wasn't a surprise when he got out hooking to Wagner, because that's just the sort of Stokes way of doing things, really. But interestingly, he scored at a strike rate of 28.44, which is anything but Bazball, 33 from 116 balls. And there's a general view that he should be sacked because he just doesn't understand Bazball.
Look, I don't think any man. I've been quite magnanimous to Joe Root, and of course Ben Stokes. One would prefer to be completely magnanimous towards him as well. However, that said, I would faintly criticise him. One, for not. There was no particular reason why he shouldn't have retired hurt there. Ben Foakes could have come in and played his sensible self along with Joe Root and actually taken quite a lot of the heat and the energy out of the situation. I understand as captain, he wanted to, play the captain's role. I understand why he did it. I would have thought that the more sensible decision would have been for him to say, my knee's gone. It's going to make a lot more sense to get folks in. And as a consequence, he played a shot which he should never have played. And it was a messy, unnecessary shot. And I really would criticize him for that. Having played so sensibly up till then, there was no mileage in the shot he played. But again, same point, it all contributed to a brilliant test match.
Well, Ben Folkes had a similar situation. He was going very cautiously is probably not quite the right word, but when he was in with Leach in particular, he was refusing singles just to protect him. And then suddenly he started trying to hit it, and quite successfully until he got caught hooking again. So yet another.
Well, look, it is risk reward. Had folks simply not tried any aggression at all, I think there would be a feeling that there was a ball with Jack Leach's number on it at some point. So I understand why he played the odd aggressive shot, and he miscalculated on one of them. It's funny, isn't it? I remember Ben Stokes saying after his Headingley innings a few years ago, I knew exactly what I was doing until the score came down under 10. And then I couldn't work out whether I should start playing sensibly or not. And I think in that very last period of these very tight and gripping matches, I think you can have absolute clarity until the last 10 runs. And I think folks just lost a little clarity right at the end. But that's sport.
Yes, indeed it is. Broad's innings, probably the less said the better. It was ugly slashing from outside the leg stump. He's not the same man who's hit a test century in 13 test 50s, quite clearly.
No, it's very well rehearsed why that is the case. He's given license to say just hack away, Broady. If you get 25, fantastic. He got 11 today, which was... if he'd have got 14, England would have won the match. So yeah, there we are. You know what you're going to get from Stuart Broad.
Now, the penultimate ball was very short ball from Wagner. And there's a strong argument to suggest it should have been called wide because it bounced over the height of Jimmy's head.
It was. I don't think there's any question it was a wide.
Yes.
And there was some question as to whether the ball before that, I think it was to Jack Leach or in the previous over, was a wide as well. And technically it probably was. But we all remember that the umpire made a mistake and called for, I think, 5 runs, not 4 at the end of that World Cup final. So New Zealand get that run back here.
Yeah, there is some redemption available, isn't there? I've got no idea who hit the most boundaries in this match, but fortunately it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And you know, we're a little way off being ruled by algorithms and automata. Cricketers make mistakes, and that's part of the game. Umpires make mistakes, and that remains part of the game as well. It was very clearly a wide, and I would have liked, selfishly, to have seen one tie in my life, and that would have made it. But it was not to be, and well done, New Zealand.
I think there's some justice involved in terms of what New Zealand came back from. So, I mean, apart from anything else, this was brilliant for Test cricket, and the life that comes from something like that is greater than any super over or whatever in ODIs or T20 cricket. But I'm glad to see New Zealand get a win after coming back from what frankly was a really ordinary first innings on their part, 209 all out, and to come back after having the follow-on enforced. And Kane Williamson has to take a lot of the credit for the way he batted.
Look, honestly, once the dust has settled, I hope that most right-thinking Englishmen will be, as I say, use the word fair number of times, magnanimous enough to recognise that was not only a good result for Test cricket overall, but a great result for New Zealand cricket. And if it reinvigorates some interest in the longer form of the game, in the land of the long white cloud, then it's all been to the greater good. I saw a very broad smile on Ben Stokes' face right at the end there. He knows how to play the game in the right spirit, and the entire game and series was played in the right spirit. And I think I'm actually very happy with that result.
It's interesting, isn't it? There are those who will be critical of Ben Stokes for smiling when he should be miserable, in the same way that people were critical of Stephen Smith for giving the thumbs up to the bowler for a really good ball. I mean, it is only a game. It's only
Just
a
a
game,
game.
folks, and
It's
we
just
fucking
a
love it.
game. We absolutely do. And you know, when you're trying to follow a game in the middle of the night from the other side of the world, then you know, it doesn't mean quite as much as if you're in the country at the time, or even sitting on the grassy bank and you're viscerally engaged with it. And
Yes.
I think I'm not saying that anyone deserves to win a match that they didn't deserve, that they didn't win, or vice versa. But there was some sort of perhaps sense of natural justice with New Zealand winning today, and absolutely fair dues.
Yeah. So just looking at the series as a whole, uh, what do England and New Zealand take away from it, do you think?
Well, I think New Zealand will still be concerned that they're coming to the end of their golden era. There's not much they can do about that. Smaller countries will go in peaks and troughs just because they don't have the resources of the larger countries. But they've still got an excellent batting lineup. If they can rustle up a couple of succession bowlers to the old Bolt Southey regime, then they're still a great force in world cricket. They just need to play some more Test matches if they can. As far as England is concerned, then what is it now? 7 wins out of 9 during the new regime.
No, I think it's 10 out of 12.
My apologies. 10 out of 12, is it? Yep, 10 out of 12. I think you're dead right. That has got to be seen as a rampant success by any scorecard. Obviously, the 2 big tests, or 2 of the biggest tests, lie ahead with Australia and India this year. I think more importantly, they found a way and a strategy which suits them, which they're all happy with. They're all relaxed in the dressing room. They do what they do. They trust the process in the jargon, and the outcomes will take care of, and the outcomes take care of themselves. We are beginning to emerge a kind of post Anderson Broad, Alistair Cook style world now, and Harry Brook being the most obvious candidate. But if Ollie Pope can calm down a little, he looks like a very good prospect as well. Hopefully Ben Duckett will kick on, and with the return of Archer, and hopefully with Stone and Potts looking good as well, I think this is a pretty good time for English cricket as well.
Don't forget Mark Wood.
And indeed Mark Wood. Yes.
And of course, Bairstow coming in, presumably to replace Crawley, has done nothing to justify his retention, in my judgment.
No, you're right. We've talked about Crawley before. I think there comes a time. Yeah. There comes a time when all men must recognise that this experiment is not working.
Indeed. So we move on. Thank you very much for that, Forthy. Tomorrow we will be back in Bangladesh for England's ODI team, playing Bangladesh at 0550 GMT for those of you in the UK.
What time is it? Well, we'll talk about that off air. I'm trying to work out whether I can do the commentary on that. We'll find out.
Yes, indeed. Of course, everybody's interested in who the gorilla and the tweeter of the day are. I have a personal gorilla of the day who's Andy Ward, who very kindly stepped in to take my 2 stints prior to lunch, which meant I could sleep till 8 o'clock this morning, which is a real privilege.
Very nice.
But I think the actual gorilla of the day is Gorilla Hendo for giving us a couple of rants that have been missing of late, because Hendo rants are a part of the very life of guerrilla cricket, and if we don't get them from time to time, we're missing out. So I really appreciated that. I think the tweet of the day probably came from Tom Fay, cricket captain, who said titanium has an atomic number of 22, so with stats like that it must be pushing Zach Crawley for an opening berth, which I thought was a lovely line.
Very nice.
So with that, we will leave you. We'll invite you to like, subscribe, and to share this, and to go to patreon.com/Guerilla Cricket if you'd like to support us. And we look forward to catching up with you again after the ODI tomorrow. In the meantime, thank you very much, Forthy.
Yeah, it's been a delight, and thank you all listeners for being with us during this series, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks.
And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened the night.